Well, hello YouTubers, how's everybody doing? I hope you are doing pretty good. I'm doing not too bad myself. A beautiful August day out here in the 80s, and not too much longer fall will be creeping up on us. Then after that, well, the cold weather will be here, but we got a little ways off. But I figured this will be a great time to get caught up on some things, get things done before it actually gets cold. Now this is my 2003 Ford Explorer. I've done a lot of work on these, the 4.6s and the 5.4 Triton engines that are in the Expeditions, and I have an Expedition that has a 4.6. So far I have not had any issues, any workings I should say, with the 5.4 right now. I'm kind of scared of those engines. They are big and they are notorious for popping plugs out and all that, but I really enjoy working on the 4.6. It's pretty easy to work on, and they have a common theme that often happens, and those are these codes right here. The P0420, the P0430, and these other codes you see, the 2195, the 2197, the P0171, and P0174. Those are basically unmetered air codes for the 4.6 and the 5.4. And the biggest offender, folks, of these codes are right here. This plastic intake that you see sitting down on here. I have changed probably 50 of these in the last 2 or 3 years because of these codes. And what happens is the computer is trying to lean the system out. It has unmetered air, and it just can't do it. Then eventually it'll throw one of those codes on, which usually indicates or points toward this intake. Not always, but in most cases I have found, probably about 75 to 80%, the problem is up here somewhere. Now, not always. You still could have just a broken hose, some air getting in here, a vacuum leak, and it still will cause one of these codes that you see there. So you really have to start out by checking vacuum lines first and reset the codes. And if you find a vacuum line that's off, simply hook it up and take it for a ride. But if your light comes back on, you get any of these codes, then if you have this plastic intake, you might have to start looking there for those codes. And we'll talk about this plastic intake in a second and what you need to do. Now I have a Expedition. It's a 2000. It has an aluminum intake. Let's go ahead and look at it real quick. Okay, so here we are looking at my 4.6, and let's get the hood up real quick. And here is my Triton V8 engine. And you can see I've got the aluminum intake. Now this story will be for the aluminum intake and the plastic. What happens, there's a gasket under here, and after a while it gets old, brittle, it cracks, and it starts letting a little unmetered air into the system, and that's when your PO check engine lights come on, your codes for your air intake, running rich and all that, and bank 1, bank 2, blah blah blah. That's when it really starts to happen. Now on this one I have a PO, I believe it's a 430. Let's look at it real quick. I have my computer here hooked up. And actually it's a P0420. I apologize, but the P0420 and the P0430 basically is the same thing. It's saying that the system was running way too rich. So I just wanted to kind of show you that. I am going to be fixing this here pretty soon. And when I do, I will make a video on it. I fixed about 4 of these so far in the last 2 years. And this is my own personal vehicle. I love it. It runs great. That's the only thing I have right now is that code showing up. So I did want to show you they make an aluminum intake and that plastic intake. So let's go back out to the vehicle. All right, now we're back out here to the vehicle. And like I said, this is a 2003 made 12 of 3 of 03, almost an 04. But these engines are pretty much the same. Now, like I said, this has a plastic intake, and when I started getting these codes here, I knew right away. Actually, the code right now that I have for this particular car is this SUV is a P0430. I can't show you the code because I've had the battery unhooked so many times it keeps clearing the code. You have to drive it a while before it comes on. But here is a look at the intake that usually sits on this vehicle. This is one that I took off on a vehicle about 70 months ago, and I'm going to show you right back here. You see how that plastic is cracked right there? And if you look closely, right where my thumb is, there's a secondary crack right there, and I believe there was a secondary crack, let's see, right about here where my thumb is again. I think you can see that. And if you want to keep going, there's another crack right there where my thumb is. So what happens, these gaskets that sit on here just like this from the factory, well, they're not quite as good as these here. They get squished down over time. Heat, cold, just ruins them after a while. They contract, expand, and eventually this plastic will do the same thing, and it will work these gaskets loose, and they actually get really thin and they start to leak. And here's another intake that I replaced, and same thing on this one on the back side. If you look closely, let's see on this one here, I believe there's a secondary crack right there. We got the old gasket which pretty much self-destructed, came apart, and there is a secondary crack. Well, if you look really closely, right where my thumb is, right there, there's another crack. I love shooting on my cell phone. It's much faster than my house computer. Tells you I need to get another Mac computer pretty soon. But I wanted to lay the gaskets out here, so just to give you an idea what you got to do to fix it. You just don't go out and buy gaskets and try to replace it on the plastic. If you have the plastic intakes, just don't try to replace the gaskets, because that check engine light's going to come back on. There's nothing you can really do. You have to replace the intake or the plenum with the new gaskets. You just can't put new gaskets on the old intake, because it will eventually do it again and it will start to leak. Because I tried this experiment about 2 years ago and the check engine light came right back on. Now, if you want to verify that intake is cracking, a lot of times when they do crack, they will crack right back here, and you'll get a P0430 code which says the number 8 cylinder is misfiring. Simply just go ahead and take this coil out right here, and I'm taking the bolt out just to make the video a little bit faster for you guys. Got the wiring hook. I'm going to pull this coil out here, and I bet you anything there's moisture on it, because this is where it leaks. Sometimes you got to pull kind of hard. Oh, there we go. All right, let's look at it. And what do you see right there? Look at that. This is where that intake likes to leak a lot, especially the plastic on these 4.6s. And if you have a miss, pull this coil out, clean it really good, shoot some air down there, and this will get you by a little bit longer. But in a day or two, it's going to start leaking again. The antifreeze is going to leak out around the intake and leak down in this particular cylinder here. I'm not sure why it always does it on this cylinder. It's just the way the engine is put together, I guess. I don't know why it doesn't do on the other coils, but this is the first one I've noticed that does it before it really gets bad. So I hope this video helps you out a little bit. It's not the end of the world. If you have any of these codes, if you have that plastic intake or the aluminum intake, first thing you do, check for vacuum lines up here. Make sure you don't have a really bad exhaust leak or anything, because an exhaust leak will cause some of these codes. But obviously, if you have a bad exhaust leak, you know you need to fix that first. But check your vacuum lines, make sure there's no leaks. And if you can't find any leaks, if you have this plastic intake, then my advice is to you, go ahead and change this out. And I bet you anything, it's going to help you in the long run. You're probably going to see a little bit of better performance in your vehicles. Alright guys, well, I hope this helps you out. I can't think of anything else right now that would really help you, but you're going to have to get in here, like I said, probably change out these intakes, and they are notorious for doing that. But when you go to buy these intakes, I usually go on eBay. There's lots of dealers on here, and I usually get the gaskets, a new intake, less than $150, and I've not had an issue with any of those that I bought on eBay from dealers. Now, if you want to go to Ford and have them do it, well, sit back and be prepared. You're going to spend about $1,500 to do this job, when you can pretty much do this job yourself for about $150 to $200. So I hope this helps you guys out. If you like any of my videos, please subscribe, say hello, and I'll try to do my best to answer your questions and all that. And till my next video, I will see you guys later. But when I get ready to tackle this one here and that expedition out front, I will go ahead and make videos, show you guys how to do it. Pretty simple. I have earlier videos from about 2 years ago on here from some vehicles that I did. And if you want to go back and search for those, it might help you out. So thanks for watching, guys. Until my next video, stay cool, stay safe, and I will see you then.